It's Wednesday, November 8th. I'm Matt Harmon. Welcome to Ekeler's Edge, presented by Toyota, part of the Yahoo Fantasy Football Show. It is a hell of a day. What a day. I mean, what a fantastic day to talk ball. And joining me to do just that is LA Chargers running back Austin Ekeler. Austin, fresh off a game. What's going on, buddy?
Ooh, Monday night on the East Coast. That's tired. I know this airs on Wednesday, but yeah, I am definitely feeling the lag of that daylight savings, and then we stayed over there for the day or after the game, and so I'm gonna bring as much energy as I can to this just to keep it exciting. But no, excited for another episode.
Yeah, if ever I felt like coming into a show and being like, damn, it's week 10. Man, the season's starting to weigh on me, the time commitments, all this stuff. I probably can't come into that with any complaints when my co-host is literally coming off, getting thrashed around for, 60 minutes of game time, multiple hours in real time, and then a big long road trip like that. So, hey, you're the warrior here, Austin, as usual. You made that perfectly clear last week, that I'm just sitting on my couch on Sunday with my blankies and my hot cocoa. So you are the real warrior of the show.
Yeah. Well, hey, luckily it wasn't that cold out there for us. So it was a pretty comfortable game there on Monday night. So I'll take that. And, helps when you get the win as well. So all good over here. I know you don't have a little blankie and, watch your football that way. I know you're in there, just intently looking at the screens, checking the scores, checking the newest. Are you a Red Zone guy?
So I do have Red Zone usually on one of the TVs
because there's other providers too out there now, right? I don't know. Red Zone's all of them going on at one time. It's madness.
It's a lot to keep track of. If in my office up here, the command center, I usually have the 4 screen on the YouTube, the Sunday ticket thing. This TV up here, I've usually got the Red Zone, and then this TV here, the screen I just turn around is usually the local game or whatever. So for me in Virginia, it's the Commanders, the damn Ravens, or whatever. So if my mom ever comes up here, she's like, it's awful.
Yeah.
It's like an overwhelming experience. You gotta be real. That's real discipline, Austin.
Mm-hmm.
Football, taking hits, sure. But real discipline is being able to pay attention to 7 screens, 6 screens at once.
I don't think I've ever asked you this. Do you have a favorite team?
So I grew up here in Virginia and moved to LA, moved back here. Now I actually grew up a Panthers fan because my whole family, the Harmons, have been in North Carolina for forever, since pre-Revolutionary War days, Austin. The Harmons have been in North Carolina. So I grew up a Panthers fan, lost interest in being a fan when I started doing this professionally, because it's just I don't think, and this is just me personally, people can do what they want. I don't think me personally, I could be living and dying with the team and having the emotion behind it while also again trying to be this is my job type of thing. So
fair enough.
I'll tell you what, man, I was not going to be a Commanders fan. At the time they were not called the Commanders, because that was the team I grew up closest to, because I grew up in Virginia, so they were always on TV. But no thanks to some of the Washington football days. I mean, hard pass on that. But there were some good times with the Panthers. The Cam Newton years were fun, but not a very fun team right now to talk about. But you know what is fun to talk about, Austin? Monday Night Football, like you said, you guys get a big win, 27-6. A lot of knuckleheads were picking the Jets to win that game. I saw you, or I was alerted to the fact that you were out there, liking posts on Instagram about experts picking the Jets, experts, quote unquote. I was one of the jackasses in my picks pool that picked the damn Jets to win. So I don't know what that says about our relationship, but can't possibly be good. But yeah, big win for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. For us, it's great to get one on Monday Night Football, especially when the world's watching. It was a rugged win as far as offensively. Defense came through, and so did special teams. And that's why we play this team sport. We can lean on each other. If someone's struggling, the other part's got to pick it up, and that's complementary football. And kind of saw that at its finest there. Defense really stepped up and had some big turnovers, some big sacks. And didn't allow any touchdowns. So that was very, very impressive. It was a good time to celebrate with those boys after.
Yeah, it was an entertaining game to watch if you like defensive football, for sure. Talk to me about that Jets defense, man, because what's it like to go against them? Because I'll tell you what, they're a fun unit to watch on the outside. They fly around the Williamses, Quincy and Quinnen Williams. Those guys get after it. That's got to be, again, I'm not trying to like, really rub it in here, man, but you must be feeling it today after going in against that defense.
Yeah. They're really synchronized. I was watching a couple of plays where, I would be running the ball inside zone. I'd cut it back and I would see all of them falling back at the same time. It was almost like it was synchronized, or it was like synchronized swimming. And just, how connected they are and how disruptive they are in the D-line position. They got definitely some disruptors with their twist games and just some of their sheer power. That showed up. It showed up. Their defense is great. Got to give credit to them where it's due, and it definitely put us in positions where we were struggling. I think I dropped the ball like 3 times. That's just uncharacteristic of me, which would have, in my opinion, changed the entire outcome of the game, honestly, because 2 of them were on 3rd down, and 1 was a wide open check down. So that didn't help.
I didn't want to bring it up because one of us had the over on the 4.5 Austin Ekeler catches. I wasn't going to charge you on Venmo, my $50 that I bet on this thing, but I mean, yeah.
Out of all, like, I get a bunch of DMs, after every game or whatever, and like it was really split between the people that were really happy, like, yeah, man, you scored so many fantasy points, we won, and then all the people that were in the daily betting stuff that are like, you what? You clown, like,
yeah. That is tough now that there's the fantasy and the betting, because it's like
it's a 2-front, battle here. It's all right. Do you want me to do good in fantasy, or do you want me for the bets? I play a part in both of them. It is what it is. But for what it's worth, my fantasy owners, hey, they got some points out of it, so I'm happy for them.
Right. And I do have you on our fantasy team in the league, so I'm not too upset with you about the whole catches thing. But that is pretty funny, right? It's like, well, I executed in getting into the end zone twice. Pretty good stuff. You got a couple drops. Look, drops happen. Things happen, man. It is what.
Yeah. Drops can't happen, Matt. That's how you lose your job, man. At this profession. So got to get that fixed for sure, and definitely can't be dropping it here up coming up against the Lions, but. Man, yeah, I know that you mentioned this 2 touchdowns. Alohi, our safety, who had the fumble recovery, kind of spoon-fed me one there at the end. And, that was one of the touchdowns where it was like, dang, like mentally I'm like just mad at myself, where I'm like, God, I freaking had to play better, man. And then, ended up getting a touchdown at the end of the game to kind of ice it for all the fantasy people out there. Like, okay, yep, there's another one, got spoon-fed a free one. And hey, I'll take all the free ones we can get.
Yo, so will the fantasy people too. They will take that's a group of people that doesn't really care about how it happens, just that it happens. Okay.
Exactly.
So if it's a spoon feed situation, whatever, doesn't matter. They'll take it. So I'm sure a lot of people were excited to see that. But, the thing is, Austin, in fantasy specifically, right? It's like one of those things where I bet there is a ton of people, Bustin' with the Boys, the Barstool podcast, even tweeted out, like, I'm sure someone just won or lost their fantasy matchup because of that Ekeler TD. While you definitely... Again, you brought it home for a lot of people. There's probably a ton of people that thought going into, probably like, ooh, this game's over, and I can go get my blankie and go to bed. Like my win is safe. And then sure as hell, they're waking up, if they're East Coasters like me, 1 o'clock in the morning, these games are over sometimes. You wake up and you're like, what the hell is this? And you ruin their whole day.
Hey, that's the game we play. That's the game we play, this thing called fantasy football, where guess what? There's the crazy stuff that happens, bad beats, all of that, the miracle wins and everything in between. And so that's what keeps us coming back, because the people that got their day ruined, there's the same amount of people that are waking up like, yeah, looking forward to this next week and, cheering themselves on and happy about life. So it's great. It's an emotional game for the fantasy people. And that's why people get so invested, because it's like drama. It's like a way to have this like encased safe place for drama, right? Of like your team that you want them to do good, but you can't really control it. So there's good, there's bad. And also you're going to get someone else. So there's a little bit of trash talk. And so, hey, that's why we love fantasy. Even when you don't win, look, you can't win every single time or it wouldn't be fun. I think it adds the layer of actual, hey, like you actually have to try, you actually have to put a little bit of effort into it. And sometimes this doesn't work out. But if you won every time, like, come on, like, hey, that's not competition.
Yeah, that would be
you got to have the back and forth.
100%. And sometimes you got to let go, realizing that like one of the most crucial life mottos is control what you can control. And like you have almost
if you go by that, you shouldn't play fantasy.
Exactly. Right. No,
because
gotta let that
be
go.
Disappointed.
Yeah, you got to let that go. If you could control what you control, sure, you can. Like I always say, this is a personal accountability podcast. And for the people out there, you know what? You do need to take responsibility for your choices, because you draft Austin Ekeler, like, sometimes he's going to get hurt. Sometimes he's going to miss games. Okay, well, you need to prepare for that scenario. Put your big boy pants, your big girl pants on, and you need to figure it out. All right.
That's fantasy. That's fantasy for you. There's going to be goods and bads. You gotta take them as they come and try to adjust.
Hey, one last thing on this game before we move on. Just wanted to quickly touch on your teammate Keenan Allen, who passed an incredible career mark, 10,000 receiving yards.
Wow.
Did you see the clip with an incredible catch, by the way? I mean, just unbelievable stuff. Super clutch. The man is awesome. I said, like, I think I tweeted early in the second quarter, something like that. Like, is Herbert going to throw one pass beyond 10 yards that's not contested? Because I mean, we were talking about, this is a good defense. They were on it. They were covering guys downfield. And then, well, hey, he did eventually got one to Keenan Allen, because that guy finally got open. He's still doing it at this point in his career, 10 years in the league, 10,000 receiving yards. Did you see the clip of him talking to ESPN in the post game with his shoulder? I mean, shoot, did you see him in real life with his shoulder AC sprain thing popping out? Did you see this?
I mean, I see this man every day. I've seen him
Stupid question.
I've only seen this guy every day during the season for the past 7 years now. So yeah, I know his AC joints are messed up. Yes, the man has been through it. Obviously, he's been playing for 10 years, which anyone that plays for 10 years is going to have some stuff going on with your body. Like even like my collarbone. Like you see my collarbone right here.
Oh my God, man.
Broke that a while back. I have some ribs that are popping out like that as well. Like that's his game. It's absolutely brutal on the body. And, fans at home, they don't really see that. They're just like, these are just players. And because, they're always thinking about the new guys coming in. They don't really think about us old guys. So yeah, it's crazy out there. But no, Keenan, this man has stayed consistent. Like he is Mr. Consistent, man. Like, this man never ceases to amaze me. Like, even in the practice field, like this guy is just getting it done. It will be a walkthrough rep and he'll still get open and he'll still make a guy like he'll juke a guy out during walkthrough. And you're like how? Like it's just magic. Like the way he runs his routes, especially the choice routes, just always gets open. And so, man, it doesn't surprise me that he's got 10,000 yards in 10 years, but he obviously got that finally done, and deserves all the recognition and all the accolades that come with it, man. I definitely think there's definitely a future Hall of Famer run for him as he keeps going here. So I'm happy for him.
Yeah, he's been one of my favorite players to watch the last 10 years or so, just because like, and it's crazy, Austin. I talked to a lot of the younger receivers. Like I'm thinking back at the Super Bowl. I talked to Jamar Chase. I talked to Justin Jefferson. I talked to Garrett Wilson, who you guys just played. And they all, like to a man, say one of the first 2 or 3 names out of their mouth of like, what receivers do I like to study and kind of mimic as a route runner? They all say Keenan Allen. And I have a feeling that like even 3-4 years from now, like people will still be bringing up like, yeah, Keenan Allen's still the guy. Like maybe not like he's going to be still playing it 3-4 years now. It's we'll see what happens.
At this point, I don't see him slowing down. I feel like it's just when he's ready to be done at this point, because he's kind of kept the same type of play style, and I feel like his play style is actually like really transferable into getting older. He's not like a take the top off speed guy where it's like that's what he relies on. If you rely on that, guess what? You're going to get slower over time with all the nicks and dings from your hamstrings, your ankles, and all that stuff. But this guy is he's a magician in the mid part of the field getting open. And I mean, like I said, as long as he wants to play, I think he's gonna be pretty special doing it. So I'm hoping I get a couple more years with him.
In your opinion, is that just like hard? Like, is it just hard work that goes into being that good every single, like from a route running perspective?
Matt, you know how it is. Hard work is the base skill to get into anything, or the base condition to get into anything. Like it's not just hard work. There has to be something on top of it. Whether it's the way his body is just made and the way he understands routes and how he does it in his own unique way. Because think of like basketball. Like everyone can shoot a basketball, but not everyone can be like Steph Curry, right? Like it was like this. He has his own way of doing it. Same thing with running routes. Everyone can. You could run a slant route, Matt. You could run a choice route.
My knees are shot, but maybe not.
You can still do it. It might not be good. It's gonna be in your own flavor, and the Keenan Allen flavor is one of a kind. And so I'll say that. And it's shown itself obviously for 10 years now, and continues to be a one-of-a-kind flavor and keeps him at, the height of his game and the height of the NFL.
Yeah, I always say like route running is kind of like telling a story, right? Like same thing. Anybody can tell a story, but can you put like great details and twists and turns and stuff like that into it, And like I feel like Keenan Allen is one of the best storytellers with his routes. So he's been that guy for a long time now. He continues to be that guy. I mean, he's just such a central figure to what you guys do on offense, and it's really cool to see.
He is the route whisperer.
The route whisperer. All right, I like that. All right, well, at 4-4, the Chargers squarely in the hunt in terms of getting a wild card spot, coming off a massive win against an AFC opponent that is also kind of in that wild card hunt too. I mean, look, not a long way to go in the season, but you're squarely in the hunt. We love to see that. You guys are hosting a pretty big game against the Detroit Lions. The Lions coming off their bye week, really fun team. One of my favorite offenses to watch. They've got a guy that's a pretty good storyteller as a route runner in Amon-Ra St. Brown, actually kind of similar-ish to Keenan Allen in a way, and like in the way that they're used and deployed as like those slot receivers. But Austin, I know what a lot of people are going to be focused on in this particular matchup is Eyebrow-gate. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery might finally play a game together for the first time in a while. Jahmyr Gibbs, we talked about him on the podcast, and why David Montgomery was getting, some work ahead of him early in the season. And then David Montgomery goes down and Jahmyr Gibbs has just been getting a ton of work. And it seems like his trust is growing and growing. Dan Campbell, the Lions head coach, talked about in the press conference this week that like, we feel so much better about him. I'm paraphrasing, but feel so much better about him right now than we did early in the season. So, you guys are actually all kind of ranked very close in fantasy points in terms of Yahoo standard scoring. 25, 26, 27. It goes Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, Austin Ekeler. So will be very interesting to see if these guys can, approach the top 15 together here if they both get healthy and stay healthy.
Yeah, no. Jahmyr Gibbs has been he's been making plays, flat out. He's been making plays, and guess what? You continue to do that, you're going to get more opportunities. You're basically earning yourself more time on the field, which is what was expected of him, and as a first round pick. And so he's been doing that, and he's been making me proud. I love to watch him. I'm excited to see David get back on the field as well. Not versus us against this week, but in the future,
he can wait a week.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm hoping our defense shuts them down and they run for 0 yards. But past this, I hope they do amazing. And that's just how it is. As running backs, well, in my perspective anyway, I cheer all of our guys on just because there's so much that is interconnected between all of us that goes beyond the logos. And so yeah, we'll see if the Eyebrow-gate can hold up. For those of you that don't remember or need a reminder, basically I said I would shave my eyebrows if David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs finished inside the top 15 in fantasy scoring. And hey, they've been both making plays when they're on the field. So it's not impossible, but it's still a long shot. It's still a long shot. But yeah, we're right in that in the mid-20s. I know we're all trying to work back up. I know we've all been dealing with injuries, unfortunately, but seems like we're getting back healthy. They just came off a bye week. I've been getting back into my stride a little bit more, and so yeah, it's going to be a good show. I can't wait. We're back playing at home. Not on the East Coast anymore, so that's going to be great for the body. A little bit of rest, not having to travel, but no, it's going to be good over at SoFi.
Yeah, it should be a fun game. I'm really interested to see how they're able to integrate these two guys together. I sent you the clip of ESPN's NFL Live breaking down from our clip from this podcast,
Yeah.
kind of showing actually some of your thoughts on Jahmyr Gibbs early in the season, and then how Dan Orlovsky did a really good job breaking down later on in the show about like how he's actually kind of improving in some of those areas that
Yeah.
you pointed out against the Raiders. So that's been great to see, because I still think a lot of these teams, and we'll talk about later in the show, kind of second half potential risers and stuff like that. A lot of times I feel like teams go into the season and then like the story of their season in September can look very different than how it ends the season in December. And while we haven't seen necessarily Montgomery and Gibbs both firing off at the same time, maybe that is what we see, not against the Chargers, but later on in the season.
Yeah, I mean, each game has a life of its own, but when you have two playmakers like that on the team, it's definitely a plus for you. Any position really, but especially the running back position, because then you are able to lean on two guys there, where it's like, hey, we know there's not going to be any type of fall off. We can trust both these guys to make plays, not just do the job, but actually make plays at the running back position. And so they have that unique like two-headed monster there that we're going to have to get ready for defensively. And I know we're going to be scouting for them, and because they are a pivotal part of that offense. And they have a pretty, I would say, balanced offense. And a lot of that does rely because that run game is really solid. And so when you can control the run game, on offense or defense, offensively allows you to control the game, control the clock. Defensively, if you can get them out of the run game, then you have more chances for turnovers, right? Majority of turnovers come in the passing game. And so, yeah, it's the run game is a very important part of this league. And, it's going to be, I think, a battle of the run games coming up on Sunday.
I feel like a lot of times, and honestly, the Jets against you guys on Monday night, Darius Davis scores the punt return touchdown very early on in the game. And, it didn't dawn on me until a couple of quarters later. The Jets get down 7-0 early right away on a special teams score. I feel like and again, easy for me to say in my blankie with my hot cocoa on Monday night at home. But then at one point I'm like, damn, Zach Wilson has thrown like 40 passes. He ended finished with a career high 49 passes in that game. Didn't go so well for the Jets offense, obviously. I think sometimes coordinators, again, easy for me to say at home, get put on like a little bit of tilt there, and it's like, oh shoot, I gotta catch up. Like, let me start throwing the ball, and you end up abandoning a guy like Breece Hall later in there. But when you can have that balance, like I think Ben Johnson, the Lions offensive coordinator, has like a great feel for sequencing and play calling like that. That should make for a really interesting matchup this week for you guys.
Absolutely. Just speaking about play calling though, you also have to realize like what's working, what's not. And so there's that part that plays into it as well. And like, where do we match up better? Where do we think we could take advantage of them? We're banged up at, maybe some of the corners or safety, like whatever they like, this is the spot that we're hitting this week. And so they have a game plan going into it. So that might've been, a factor of why they were trying to play into the passing game.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Definitely think about it that way. And even so, like, I know there's a lot of articles I think have written. I think George Kittle has done interviews about this before, about like Kyle Shanahan. He will literally like call run plays that he knows is not going to work. And, I'm sure there's goofballs at home sitting there being like, what the hell is he doing calling that run play again? It's not working. But he's doing it to set something else up later in the game. And I mean, hey, that's when you're really one of the better play callers out there, when you can start doing stuff like that.
For sure. It's a chess match. It really is. We have, when we come into the game, just something interesting for everyone to listen. Like, we have certain formations, and we'll make sure that we have a few plays, at least two out of that same formation, just so we can give the defense the same look, and then also be able to run different plays out of it, so we can try to get them off. Where like, here's this play again. Actually, it's not. It's actually a play that almost counters the first play that we showed you in the beginning. So that's not uncommon around the NFL, and that's pretty much for all of our different formations. We have like, hey, these are a 3-by-1 formation. These are a bunch formations. These are the plays that we can run out of them. And so just a little bit of insight for y'all as far as how we actually compartmentalize our plays and actually put our formations together to make sure that we can run several plays out of each formation.
Yeah, you don't want to have any like tips and tells and stuff like that. Otherwise, they'll start
there's so much. There's so much that goes into it. All these little details. There's even as far as like the receiver's alignment, the running back's alignment, the tackle stance, like all this stuff are tells that we're trying to pick up on. Like for us as offensive players, like when I'm looking at defense, like the linebackers, like are they on different levels? If they're on different levels, high priority, one of them's blitzing, the one that's shorter or close to the line of scrimmage. Are they tilted over? Are they usually, in the B gaps, and now they're actually in the C gap, and the ones in the A gap? Okay, now the safety's probably coming down over to the A gap side. Like all these little things that kind of just hint. And same thing with Justin, right? When our quarterback back there, he's looking at all these different tells of, okay, which way is the defense tilted? What's their D line looking like? And so, yeah, it's a great game, but that's why we were putting in all this work to make sure that we can understand it and try to play at a high level still, because there's a lot that goes into all of it.
A lot that goes into it, that's for sure. But hey, that's why there's the big reward and when it works out, and that's why it's fun.
Exactly.
And that's why we love to watch it. Hey, real quick, actually, I forgot to ask you. You didn't do the guitar celebration on your first touchdown.
I did. I did.
Well, the camera did not show it.
The camera didn't get it. It was after. So I was trying to get a group celebration going. We got to get ready on it, I guess. We got to get better with it. We're going to get a group celebration going. And then, I was dancing a little bit. Everyone hit a little dance with me. And then after that, boom, I just broke out the guitar. So I did get it in. After the second one, I didn't get it in because I was kind of in a weird place mentally.
Fair enough. But yeah, I noticed that, and I had a few people ask me, like, you got to ask him why he didn't do the guitar, like what's going on. So yeah, maybe you need to coordinate and kind of choreograph the whole group celebration thing going forward.
For sure.
All right, last thing I wanted to ask you about this week before we look forward. Josh Dobbs has kind of turned into one of the stories of the season. I don't know how much you've kept up with what Josh Dobbs is doing so far this year. Gets traded to the Arizona Cardinals late right before the season kicks off, basically, from the Cleveland Browns. And then, after having a kind of nice stretch with the Arizona Cardinals, he gets traded to the Minnesota Vikings after Kirk Cousins tears his Achilles, right? This guy barely knows, he doesn't know his teammate's name. There are clips from Sunday of him literally learning the cadence of the offense from the center. And there is... Kevin O'Connell calls it one of the most impressive things he's ever seen in his entire career, the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, as he's like saying that the Jordan Addison, the rookie receivers, having to explain to him, like, all right, on this side of the formation, this is what we're going to be doing from the routes, and like just the whole process. They go out, and despite all that, they still beat the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday. Can you just kind of tell us from a player's perspective how freaking difficult that is?
Yeah, wow. Very, very impressive. And I think it just goes to show the character of Josh Dobbs and how dedicated he is to this game and making sure that he's in a position to take advantage of his opportunity. And within that also, I mean, we've been playing football for a long time, all of us in this part of our career. And football is football. And so there's cover 5, there's cover 2, there's cover 4, there's cover 1. At the quarterback position, if you're really key in on it, you can say whatever. The coverages are the same, right? We know what the defense is, but hey, maybe for him, doesn't know any of his offense, which is to me the most impressive thing. It wasn't necessarily going out there and actually executing, but actually against the defense, but actually being in tune with his offense enough to actually go and put points on the board and actually move the ball efficiently. That was what was impressive to me. Not because the defense is what the defense is, but hey, being like, okay, timing wise, like how this guy runs these routes, right? Being able to even call the plays. I'm sure he had a wristband, but like understanding, like remember those, because just reading it off a wristband, like you still have to go out there and look around, assess the defense, know the checks, and hike the ball. Within that, you can't forget the play. And if you haven't been memorizing these things like we usually do with training camp and all these other weeks that we've had, then it's tough. That's so tough. And so, man, yeah, very, very impressive showing from Josh Dobbs. And, I've become a fan now just because like this shows, just like I said, this man's character and his dedication to taking advantage of opportunities. And I love when guys go out there and get an opportunity and take advantage of it, especially when the odds aren't really stacking up, where he could have easily gone out there, lost the game, and they would have been like, oh, okay, it's because he's a new quarterback. But no, he went out there and got it done. So shout out to Josh Dobbs, man. Keep it going.
Yeah. So what I heard was that Kevin O'Connell basically was like, giving the plays to him over the headset, he would read them off in the huddle, and then O'Connell, so he deserves a lot of flowers in this as well, would then sit there and explain to Dobbs until it cuts off, like, okay, this is what you just called. Like, what you just relayed there, this is what this is actually going to mean. And then the receivers would then have to kind of explain to him, all right, this is what we do. I mean, so much went into it, the whole thing.
Man.
And also from a personal perspective, too, I was listening to the Athletics podcast on this, talking to one of their beat writers, and the host, Robert Mays, was talking about this. This is a guy that, like, from a human perspective, Austin, right? Like, just had gotten traded from Cleveland, where he last year was with the Lions, then he was with the Titans, then he's with the Browns. Like, he was in all different places last year. He gets traded to the Cardinals, and the week before the trade deadline, he finally like got a place to himself. Like, he was living out of a hotel, living out of suitcases.
Damn.
And then he gets traded damn near, like a week after that again. So just even the personal part of it, like, anybody out there has had an experience where, like, all right, I'm living out of a suitcase, or, I mean, not everybody, but like, I'm living out of a suitcase. I'm staying in hotels for a long period of time. And like, that can sometimes even just in and of itself be taxing mentally to then go out and do all that. I mean, it just really does show what a gritty guy he is, really.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Didn't Baker Mayfield do something like that last year too?
Yeah, he was cut or waived by the Panthers. The Rams picked him up, and then he ended up playing a game and winning on Thursday night.
Man, that's crazy. Shout out to those guys, man. Especially at the quarterback position, where I feel like, right, there's the most pressure and the most responsibility to run the offense. And so to be able to go out there and put something together that actually wins the game is highly impressive. Shout out Josh Dobbs.
Highly impressive, man. It's awesome to see. All right, let's talk a little fantasy football here in the second half of the show. Pretty good week for both of us, Austin, in our fantasy league. You improved to 7-2. Good. I mean, good God, bro.
We're crushing it right now.
You're crushing it, man. It's impressive.
Well, I'll say this. Who was I going against? I think they're checked out because they left the spot empty. So it's kind of like a free win, this week. I only scored 85 points. Let's just say that. So it wasn't my most impressive.
Well, you know what? You still went out there. And it
we
still
got it
happened.
Done.
Okay,
we did get it done.
It was gotten done. Whether you got it done or it got done, it was gotten done. There's some good English.
You had an impressive performance. 110 points. Your boys went out there and took care of business.
Yes, was a good. Thanks to you, pal. Appreciate the 20 spot there from you. You did your part, so appreciate that. It was a good week for me. I'm now 4-5, so I'm kind of in the hunt, right? I'm in the mix. Right now, I'm the 7th team. I think that gets you in the playoffs in this league, if I remember correctly.
There you go.
Yes. So I would be in the playoffs right now, which is good because I've scored a lot of points. I'm pretty high up there in the points scored, so that's nice. Need to just keep that going. Need to keep that momentum up there. Need to have my running back one should help. I've got some issues to deal with, but you actually lost a tight end this week, buddy. Dallas Goedert, broken forearm.
I did.
Injuries are part of the thing here, but you're gonna have to figure out what to do at that position.
I know. What did I get him? I picked up. I put a waiver claim in for his backup, which I don't think I got. When do the waivers go through?
By the time this is out, they will have gone through, but tomorrow. So yeah.
Oh, tomorrow. Okay, so don't be trying to steal him now from me.
Well, yeah. I don't think so. I don't need a tight end. I got Cole Kmet. I actually might. I need to go pick up a quarterback, actually, because Jalen Hurts is on a bye, and Jalen Hurts has been kind of carrying my team. So
yes.
Don't go. If I don't go pick up your tight end, don't go pick up my plan at backup quarterback. Which
you going to Josh Dobbs?
Shoot, it might be Josh Dobbs.
You going to Josh Dobbs? I'll pick it up right now.
Yeah, come on, man. I mean, honestly, I'm ahead of you on the waiver situation. Because you're a better team than me. So we'll see. You've actually got a pretty interesting situation going on with your team because the Raiders look like they've got some life in the second half of the season here. Josh Jacobs went off with his really his first big game of the year, 21.8 points. New interim head coach Antonio Pierce. I don't know if you've been following this story at all, but some pretty wild stuff coming out about the Raiders and former head coach Josh McDaniels. But interim head coach Antonio Pierce, like, literally said today, we're just gonna, or I think either today or yesterday, we're gonna just try to get him 100 yards every single game. So that's good news for you, pal.
Hey, man, the dude is a stud. So if they got to make sure that, hey, they get the run game going, like we talked about it, the run game can decide the game for you. If you can get the run game going, it controls so many factors that pivot you towards winning, right? Time of possession, turnovers, and then obviously if you score touchdowns too, then yeah, absolutely. Then it's pretty much GG's from that point. Who do they got this week? They got the Jets. That might be my bold prediction.
There you go.
That'd be my bold prediction when we get to that segment. They're going against the Jets defense, which, we just went against, and we just talked about how their defense is stout. So that'll be a good matchup. If they're trying to get them 100, let's see. It'll be a good one.
Yeah, I just am really interested in kind of keeping track of this Antonio Pierce story. Have you ever been, I don't know off the top of my head, have you ever been on a team where the head coach was fired midseason?
No, I've had coordinator changes midseason, but not head coaches.
Yeah, because again, I don't know if you've seen much of this story, but these dudes are like literally, they're smoking cigars after beating the Giants in the locker room.
I did see that.
The Giants, like, okay, you beat the Giants. That's not that impressive, but they're not celebrating because they beat the Giants. Okay, they're celebrating because the vibes are much better in the locker room right now. I mean, Davante Adams literally is at a courtside of an NBA game sent to a ref, I think he was talking to, or someone. He's like, yeah, it's going to be good now. Like, it's going to be good now. Now that there's been this organizational change.
Hey,
so
look, I was not in that locker room, but it's whatever. If the locker room is feeling that way about, the change that was made, then, good for them, because ultimately it's the players that have to go play, and, whoever's leading that team, they got to make sure that they're on the same page. And if they're not, then it's tough to go through the season and really, really care about the team as a whole. And when you have the coaching and the players really combined, that's when the magic can happen. You can feel good about even if it's not going your way, you're just like, okay, we're still bought into this. We still have good philosophies. We still think that, hey, we still can believe in this stuff. But when it gets toxic in the locker room and coaching, then that's when, the drama starts. So I don't know what's going on over there. But hey, if they're feeling better about it, that's music to my ears, just as being a player in this league. I love to hear our guys, just making sure that they're loving this game and going out there and playing it with a group that they believe in.
Yeah, and like, I don't know, my whole point about asking you about the head coach change midseason is sometimes just like that, like, breath of fresh air can be, I don't know how long of an effect it brings you, but it clearly brought an effect to this team, at least this past week, because that was how they felt about the direction of the team. And Pierce is a guy who's won a Super Bowl. He's a player, former player, stuff like that. It just seems like that relationship is much cleaner. So it brought a lot of good to Josh Jacobs. I'm curious when that kind of trickles down to Davante Adams, right, who is your fantasy receiver. He is wide receiver 16 on the season, but I don't know if he'll ever get to the point where he returns. Like, you took him in the second or third round. I think you were on the turn, so you were right there. Like, I don't know if he ever returns that value necessarily, but man, I think there are better days ahead. I think he makes for one of the best, like, second half of the year bounce back candidates, even if he has a rookie quarterback in Aiden O'Connell.
Yeah, because now they changed the quarterback too, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
and the offensive coordinator too. I mean, they changed head coach out, GM out, offensive coordinator out, starting quarterback benched. So a lot of changes.
Wow. Yeah. So there's a lot of factors that are gonna play into how Davante Adams does. I think they're still gonna lean on him. I still believe that I guess they have Jacoby Myers as well. It's really those three that you're the offense. So you guys got to make it work. So they can't give Josh Jacobs the ball every single time. So when they're not, I feel pretty confident they're going to be trying to throw it to Davante Adams. So I think he'll be all right.
Yeah, I think he'll be all right. I'm just going to throw out real quick before we jump to bold predictions, some other potential bounce back candidates. If there's any here that stick out to you, let me know, because we're talking about Raiders skill position guys for sure. I think they're bounce back candidates now that we've got this sort of new vibe within the Raiders offense. I think we could see a little bit of a revenge from some of these 1B receivers. We talked about this a few weeks ago, how some of these number 2 receivers like T. Higgins, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, my guy Jahan Dotson, hadn't really started the season hot, but I think if you look at Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert's out. He's going to have to step up. His target share is going to get a boost. Jahan Dotson, now that Sam Howell's not on pace to take 97 damn sacks, he's had a couple of nice games of late. T. Higgins, Jamar Chase might have a back injury, so I think he's in line for a little bounce back here. Trevor Lawrence, QB 17 on the year. I think he's a nice bounce back candidate in the second half. The Seahawks offense, shout out to my dumbass when I predicted there would be 3,000-yard receivers on this team. My guy Geno Smith is QB 24, so let's go ahead and say there's no receiver on pace for 1,000 yards. And lastly,
he's throwing it downfield, that's for sure. That man slings it.
God bless him, he's trying. The Washington Commanders have a pretty beatable defense. I think that is a matchup where maybe we could start to see those guys get right. And look, the Ravens defense is going to put a lot of people, stuff them in a locker and never let them out. So I think we'll see about Geno and these receivers bouncing back starting this week and going forward. And lastly, Tony Pollard, I'm not sure he's going to be like a fantasy bounce back candidate, to sort of similar with Devontae Adams, where he might not reach the heights that some people had for him, where he was like a fringe first, second round fantasy pick. But because this offense is good, he'll probably have himself some good weeks. But I think those are the best like bounce back candidates right now. Do any of these guys sort of stand out to you from just like a peripheral perspective?
Yeah, I thought those were great. Those are great candidates. As far as the bounce back, it's for us, it's not always like the fantasy stuff. Like, yes. Mm-hmm. Fantasy can relate to, or playing well can relate to fantasy, but it doesn't always relate to fantasy. Like if I go out and I run for 100 yards and don't have a touchdown, I would say it's a pretty good game for me as far as like a player. And so I'm thinking some of the stuff doesn't always relate strictly to fantasy production. So even though they might still be a great player and still be performing on the field, maybe the fantasy isn't as high of a potential because they have a rookie quarterback now. And so their offense is a little bit more limited as far as, what they're able to do. Talking about the Raiders here. So, and Devontae Adams. But yeah, we'll see. I think during this part of the season is when, right, people are going to start to separate. It's crazy right now in the AFC. Like, yeah, how close all of these teams are right now. We still have 9 games left to go in regular season, but there's a lot of teams that are right in that mix. And so guess what? The best football is yet to be played. I think the best football is played here at the end of the season. And I think we're getting into that, where it's that grind where people are going to start separating and start really solidifying themselves. But it's going to be tight, which is really cool because it makes it really exciting as far as just us as players. Like everything's on the line every single week. Even more so. So yeah, bounce back, definitely potential. But time will tell. And I'm rooting for everyone, unless they're playing us.
Well, and a lot of these teams too that have breaking in new quarterbacks or new offensive coordinators. I mean, I think about Washington. I mentioned Jahan Dotson there. This might be the time when they start to sort of coalesce, when like, all right, now Eric Bieniemy knows what Sam Howell does well, and Sam Howell knows what Eric Bieniemy expects out of him. Bieniemy maybe understands his personnel better, all part of it. And why, like a guy like Jahan Dotson, you mentioned this, and I always want to kind of have these conversations where, yeah, just sometimes because the fantasy stats aren't there doesn't mean the guy's not executing his assignment and doing what needs to be done. It's just, I mean, that's why I do what I do with the receiver position, why I think it's important to go in and chart what they're doing and watch the routes and like really try to judge them in isolation, because production can be so circumstantial. So don't be surprised when, all right, this guy's still playing a ton, and yeah, there's some drops and stuff like that, maybe, but by and large, like 95% of the plays, he's running good routes, he's getting open. That's a high percentage. I'm just throwing that out there. But like, he's executing his assignment generally. And okay, first half of the season, there's no production there, but then second half of the season, he ends up being like a fringe top 35 receiver, just like where he was drafted. And that's the funny part about fantasy, Austin, is that we look back at the end of the season, it's like, oh yeah, this guy had 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns. But we so often forget during the season that the journey to get to that destination is not just like la-di-da-di-da down the road, same speed all year long.
It's not 15 points every single week, know, in and out. It's hey, he might have had 3 one week and then he had 27 the next. And then, you just continue to go through these ebbs and flows. And that's why we love this game. That's why we love it. So, hey, we'll see these guys. Keep an eye on it, everyone. I know I have some people that I'm looking forward to seeing if they can bounce back. Devontae Adams being one of those, and also Josh Jacobs, which, they've been carrying me still. They've been putting up some good points and doing their thing over there. So I got high hopes for them, and we'll see how these other play out too.
All right, on the note of points and ups and downs, let's talk about some guys who are potentially going to have some big ups here in week number 10. All right, Austin, since we are teaming up this season with the first ever Toyota Grand Highlander, the perfect vehicle for making new memories, we're going to create some memories of our own in this segment we are calling Future Snapshots. So make me a bold prediction. Who's going to have a memorable performance this weekend? Austin Ekeler.
Ooh, I think I am going to go with my guy, Josh. I don't think I've, leaned on Josh here in a while, but, what the coach is saying.
Well, you did actually one week, and I think that was the week he had negative rushing
yards. I was going to say in a while, damn it. Not that I have it at all. So, I'm looking for a bounce back. He's going to have more than 1 yard rushing. No, I'm just kidding.
There you go.
Hey, from the last time I had him on the bold prediction, that would have been a win, barely, but or it would have been a loss actually for 1 yard rushing. I'm leaning on Antonio Pierce. I'm saying Josh Jacobs, 100 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns as well. So that is my bold prediction for this week. Needing some help here on the back half of my bold predictions, but I'm faithful in this one. Josh is going to get it done.
I like that bold prediction. That would be bold because, like you said, against the Jets front, that's one of the best run defenses in the NFL. They are, as you just experienced, a pretty tough group to go against, even if you got yourself some big plays there. I will actually go right back to the well, Austin. Last week, I predicted that DeAndre Hopkins was going to be a top 3 receiver. He was not a top 3 receiver, but you know what? I'm going back to it this week. I think this week, DeAndre Hopkins is going to be I'm going to say top 5 receiver this week. And here's why. 1, the process was right, okay? He had 11 targets last week on Thursday night against the Pittsburgh Steelers, only caught 4 for 60, but it's clear that rookie quarterback Will Levis is going to DeAndre Hopkins. And Will Levis, this rookie quarterback who has been named the starter for the rest of the season now, which I think makes sense for where they are as a team, is pushing the ball downfield. He's mostly got eyes for DeAndre Hopkins, and it's hard to blame him because similar to our conversation about Keenan Allen, it doesn't look like he's lost much of his game. I think he still looks pretty good. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now, so far, since who the Titans play this week, since the Bucs came off their bye, they have allowed 340 passing yards, 245 to the Atlanta Falcons, who don't really throw the ball. So, adjusted wise, that's a lot. 312 passing yards and 443 passing yards last week to rookie CJ Stroud. I think DeAndre Hopkins is a top 5 fantasy receiver this week. I'm going back to the well 2 weeks in a row.
Nice prediction. That is quite bold. And definitely, I think there's some justification in there. So I like it.
And we'll see if I'm just ramming my head into the wall here and being stubborn.
Yes, but you and I both.
Yeah, clearly, that's what we're trying to do here. We got to get something right at some point.
Come on.
We're making memories every day here on Ekeler's Edge. Those were our future snapshots. Thanks again to Toyota and the first ever Grand Highlander. All right, Austin, that's going to do it. Hell of a show today. We covered a ton of ground.
Yes, absolutely. Feels good to get back into the flow of not Monday Night Football games. So we can get back to the high energy that I usually have. Like I said, just getting back. Literally got off the plane, back from LAX, drove down, got some lunch, jumped right on the podcast. So not missing a moment for you guys. I hope you guys can appreciate the dedication. I know I appreciate you all listening to the show. And yeah, we'll see you next week.
Well, hey, man, I'll say this. You brought it today, and I appreciate you and all of your efforts and all of your time. So thanks a ton, man. Great show. And thank you all out there for listening every single week. We love it. We love the support from you all out there. Honestly, I mean, my God, it would be pretty I mean, it would be great if Austin and I were just kicking around for 50 minutes, but it's much better knowing that somebody is actually out there listening. That's always nice. It's also nice when tomorrow is Thursday, which means we're heading into a full slate of NFL action, and Dalton Del Don is joining me for another episode of Stat Nerd Thursday, where we give you one stat you need to know for all 32 teams. Until then, we're out.